Good morning. Good morning. We're going to start here in a couple minutes. So if you want to grab a seat, that'd be great. One quick announcement before we begin. On your tables, there's a registration sheet for our State of the County meeting next Tuesday. And that's when you get to meet the new Board of Commissioners. And if you have not registered yet, it's free. Just please fill out your name on that sheet that should be right in front of you, and we'll collect those at the end of the meeting to make sure you get registered. Mr. Mike, could you put that down? So good morning. We may as well start right now. I think we have a pretty good group. We had about 125 registered, but of course a little bit of snow here in Carroll can get a little bit scary. So we've had some folks that maybe are still on the way. If they are, we will just guide them into a nice seat. Make sure you turn off your cell phone so you don't get embarrassing calls from your daughter right when you start the meeting. So cell phone should be on mute. That was perfect timing. I should have answered the phone with her. So, I'm Mike McMullin. I'm president of the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce, and welcome and happy 2015. I want to thank those members of our delegation who are here, and I think there may be still some on the way. So, I also like to thank the Community Media Center. They're filming today's event and they're streaming this event live. So, for those that weren't able to make it, you could tell others and they'd be able to watch it on the website, and I'm sure we'll get a link that we can put on our website as well. So, the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce has over 500 business members, and we've been building relationships since 1924, and it is relationships that drive both our businesses and our personal lives. They're really everything. Today, we shine a spotlight on another type of relationship that we seek to strengthen and grow, and that is the relationships between our business community and our elected officials who are part of the Carroll County Delegation to the Maryland General Assembly in Annapolis. And we have some additional ones for this year, so it's going to be a little bit different. The Chamber has a long tradition of reviewing proposed legislation and taking a pro-business stand by writing letters to our delegation and to the chairs of the various Senate and House committees in Annapolis. These Senate and House committees hold public hearings and examine items thoroughly before recommending to the General Assembly the action that it should take. And today we have an excellent program for you, as we'll hear from hopefully 9. I think we've already got one that has dropped off, but at this point 8 members of our delegation. And I was surprised to find this fact out, but the Maryland General Assembly goes over something like 2,500 plus bills every year. I mean, that just is like an unbelievable number. So our folks have got a lot cut out for them. And they meet from January 14th, I believe it is, through April 13th. It's 90 days. So we're going to change things up a little bit here today due to the large number who are in our delegation who have never met any of us. So instead of recognizing all the elected officials and the past chairs like we do, we're going to ask each person to quickly introduce themselves. And I know folks are looking at watches. We've gone over this. This is doable if we all participate the same way. Do it from your chair. We'll have a microphone. And it's going to be really simple. Why don't you bring the mic and we'll start over in this area. But I'm going to model this for you. This is how quick it should go. As long as you're sitting down, you're simply going to say, I'm Mike McMullin, president of the Carroll County Chamber of Commerce.
But say your own name.
But you want to say your own name. You don't want to say that you're me. We have a comedian from CFC. Let's get the spotlight. Get up here and perform. This is not a time for a commercial. We just want them to know who they will be speaking with, and we should be able to whip through this in 10 minutes at the most. So we'll start with Mr. Fox.
I'm Mike Fox, HR Manager, Lehigh Cement.
Oh, you should do your own. Yeah.
Susan Krebs, Legislator, District 5.
Mike Gibble, President, Gibble Enterprises Holdings.
Jenny Gambino, Carroll Hospital Center and Carroll Hospice.
Brenda Frazier, Carroll Hospital Center and Carroll Hospice.
Bill Gavin, Chairman of the Legislative Committee of the Chamber.
Mike Fowler, Governmental and External Affairs for BGE.
Dave Roush, available for assignment.
Heather Powell, Change Incorporated. Christine Walters, 5L Company and former board chair.
Harriet Gillen, principal with Reger, Lehman, and Howe.
Louise Tinkler, Executive Director, Carroll Area Transit System.
Rich Keys, Transportation Operations Manager, thank you. I can't even remember my title. Carroll Area Transit System.
Sherry Tracy and Bolin, principal at Reger, Lehman, and Howe.
Jim McCarran, Mayor of Tawnytown and Atlantic Bay Mortgage Group.
Nancy McCormick, City of Tawnytown, Economic Director.
Good morning, Denise Raquel, Manager of the Carroll County Business and Employment Resource Center.
Good morning, Commissioner Richard Rothschild. Let me get my speech out. Hang on just a second.
Good morning, Tom Meacham. I'm an attorney with Carney, Callahan, Bresler, Bennett, and Scher.
Lynn Wheeler, Carroll County Public Library.
Don Rao, the Arc of Carroll County.
Welcome everybody to New Windsor, Mayor of New Windsor, Neil Rupp.
Haven Shoemaker, delegate-elect, I guess, because I'm not official till next week, and attorney in Hampstead.
Wayne Barnes, Life and Long-Term Care Insurance, and former chair of the Chamber of Commerce.
Dick Weaver, Commissioner, District 2.
Good morning, Lisa Albin, Carroll Lutheran Village.
I am not Mike McMullin.
Thank you.
Gary Mellican, President and CEO, Carroll Lutheran Village. Dave Bollinger, Barnes Bollinger Insurance, and former chair of the Chamber. John Wheatman, Carroll County Department of Economic Development.
John Yingling, Crawford, Yingling Insurance.
Ben Yingling, Crawford, Yingling Insurance.
Steve Wance with Carroll Community College and immediate past chair of the Chamber.
Justin Reedy, State Delegate representing District 5, clothed in immense power.
Mike Mason, Mason Commercial Capital.
Jan Olemaker, Vice President of Academic and Student Affairs at Carroll Community College.
Anna Miranda, Personal and Small Business Banker at Wells Fargo.
Warren Miller, State Delegate, District 9A.
Steve Jeppy, Carroll Community College.
Mike Myers, Bureau of Purchasing, Carroll County Government.
Rob Burke, Comptroller, Carroll County Government.
George Peck, Chief Lending Officer, Carroll Community Bank.
Beth Hardsock, President of Omega Fire and Life Safety.
Roy Lipton with the Partnership for a Healthier Carroll County.
Steve Guthrie, Superintendent, Carroll County Public Schools.
Chris Hartlove, Chief Financial Officer, Carroll County Public Schools.
Good morning, Steve Johnson, Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, Carroll County Schools.
Good morning, Jim Dolan, President of the Board of Education.
Matthew Saxton, Student Representative on the school board and also an intern for the Chamber.
Bob Lord, Board of Education.
Angela Bain, Media Consultant with Comcast Spotlight.
Todd Renfro, Director of Operations for Buchanan Auto Stores.
Gary Rubenstein, General Sales Manager of Buchanan Kia.
Michelle Sholin, owner of By the Bay Botanicals Gift Shop in Westminster.
Not too bad, huh? You guys deserve a round of applause that you did that so well. You know, we went back and forth. Should we do that? Should we not? We don't normally do that, but because of the fact that we have so many in our delegation that we've never met and that have never met us, unfortunately, I don't know that they're all here right now. But the intent is that I have found out in life, in my experience, that things sometimes are more about relationships than they almost are about issues. If you want people to get along with you, it's good to have a decent relationship, because if you don't, if you just have your opinion, you can become like a brick wall goes up and you start to talk and the person doesn't even listen to you. If that's your goal, if that's your intent, then you're going to accomplish it. But if you want to work together with others, it's good to have a solid relationship. So I'm glad we had a chance to do that. Our sponsors today. Yes. Oh, that is. Okay, Senator Bates just walked in. Hello. And accompanying her is? Well, welcome, welcome. But our sponsors today, we couldn't do meetings like this without our sponsors. We have BGE and we have Comcast. Sponsors are extraordinarily vital to what we do, and we definitely have some programs this year where we need some sponsors. So if you're interested, please give me a call. Comcast has decided not to present to us today due to the busy time frame of the meeting, so we thank you for that. But I'd like to have Angela Bain, account executive from Comcast Spotlight, stand and be recognized for their sponsorship. Give her a round of applause. BGE is a longtime friend of the Chamber, and the rep that they have here today is no stranger to us. His name's Mike Fowler, manager of local affairs, correct? Okay, I'm close enough. But he's also on the legislative committee for the Chamber, so I'd like to ask Mike to come forward for a couple seconds here. Give him a round of applause.
Yes, and I promise it will be a couple of seconds. First of all, thank you all for making the trip out in this crummy weather. It's incredibly important to hear from our delegation. There's a bit of change in the air, I guess, if you will, some guarded optimism that the private sector and the business community may see some progress in the General Assembly this year. Let's knock on wood for that. But it's also very gratifying to sponsor these events. You know, BGE is kind of unique as a regulated utility. We have a captive customer base, unlike many of you. So we're not members of the Chamber to try to attract business or attract customers. We're here really to support the business community and to also act in concert to try to move forward in the state policies that are beneficial to the business community and in turn to our families and our communities. So I want to thank the Chamber. Also, I want to highlight the work of the Legislative Committee. It's incredibly important. I think you'll hear today that it is very important that the delegation hear from the business community, and the Chamber is the ideal venue through which to do that. I think you'll also, I've heard them say many times that a relatively few number of comments regarding legislation really can shift things one way or the other. So it is incredibly important that our voices are heard, and this is the best way to do it. So thank you again for being here. Appreciate the opportunity to sponsor and look forward to hearing what the delegation has to say.
Thank you, Mike. And we're right on time. I'm just really happy about that. I am honored right now to introduce to you our MC of the night. He is it's not me. We're very, very fortunate to have Bill Gavin as the Chamber's chairman of our legislative committee. Bill has served on the committee. I sometimes think I get the numbers mixed up, but I believe for like 40 years, and I'm not joking. And you've been chairman for maybe 30 of those. I mean, that's pretty impressive in a day and age when people bounce from thing to thing to thing to have that type of dedication and passion. So I just want a nice round of applause right now for Mr. Bill Gavin, please. Bill is going to, and at this time while I'm introducing Bill, if our delegation could come on up and have a seat. We've got your name mapped out here. Now we're going to be able to find out who's really here and who's not because of the weather. But if you guys want to come on up, have a seat, and then Bill will introduce each one of you, and we'll ask you to basically give your name, district, your party affiliation, and maybe your top issue that you're going to tackle in Annapolis, and then we'll give you about 2 minutes to be able to say that we should have put your name on both sides. And then Bill will open that up to some question and answer. So again, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Gavin and our delegation. Come on up, Bill.
Good morning. Thank you, Mike. And thank you all for coming today on this fine summer day. Let's see, we have not too many here today. Okay.
If you all want to sit closer together, that would be
fine. Why don't we do that, actually?
Move over. Bring your name back. It's the best idea I've heard all day. Yeah.
Kathy's supposed to come.
Kathy's going to come. Thank you. She's on her way.
You don't want to sit closer?
musical blackness. Yeah, Mike's not coming, so I'll take his time. There you go.
All right, so we have, starting on this end, Senator Gail Bates, District 9, Howard County, but a little slice of Carroll County. Delegate Warren Miller, District 9A, Howard, and some Carroll. Most of you are familiar with Delegate Susan Krebs from District 5, Justin Reedy from District 5, and our new delegate, Haven Shoemaker, for District 5. So I'd like to ask you all to introduce yourself. Give us a 2-minute thing if you can. We'll try to hold you to it. Starting with you, Senator Bates.
Thank you. I'm Gail Bates. We just spent the last half hour, I believe, observing all the farm country in Carroll County. My GPS took me through some really beautiful territory where the roads have not been cleared. It was really lovely. I've been a member of the House for 13 years. I served on the Appropriations Committee in the House. In the Senate, I will be on EHE, which is Education, Health, and Environment Policy Committee. That'll be interesting for me. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a former teacher, so education is of great interest. And environmental laws tend to affect business in more ways than some of us would like, so I think that'll be interesting as well. I'm really looking forward to that subject matter. I believe strongly in public service, and I look forward to working with you. I am a CPA. I have a small accounting practice, so business issues are of vital concern to me. I try to weigh the impact of the things we do on business, and I have a pretty strong voting record for business. So I've been a member of my Howard County Chamber, and I look forward to working with you folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. Delegate Miller.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Warren Miller. Much like Gail Bates, I've represented Northern Howard County since 2003. I was appointed by Governor Bob Ehrlich to replace Robert Flanagan. I've had the great pleasure of serving on the House Economic Matters Committee. When I first started, Delegate Krebs and I served together on that committee. We deal with most of the business issues in the state. We deal with public utilities, banks, insurance companies. We deal with unemployment insurance, workers' comp insurance, all those wonderful things you guys get to deal with as business owners. We get to legislate against, and we also regulate several state agencies that oversee business operations in the state, agencies like the Department of Labor and Licensing Regulation. I'm excited to have part of Carroll County to represent. You guys think it's a small part. I think it's a pretty good sized chunk of land there south of 26 and east of 94. It goes and goes and goes. So anyway, I'm excited to join the delegation and look forward to helping you guys at Carroll County as much as I can in the Maryland General Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate Krebs.
Thank you. These are my friends. I've known you all, so I'm not going to give you my background. I'm Susan Krebs. I used to represent the southern part of the county. Now I represent the whole rest of the county. So I have from Eldersburg to Tawnytown and the rest of Carroll. So I'm excited to be officially a part of all of that. And I welcome my new colleagues. They love Carroll County. There are a couple of folks that are not here. One is on her way, Delegate Afzali. Some of our extended delegation now comes from very far away, like Brunswick, Maryland. So she is still on her way. One of our other colleagues, Kelly Schultz, is Delegate Schultz from Frederick. She is not here because she has now just been assigned to be the secretary of the Department of Labor, Licensing, and Regulation. And that is a big coup for us, a great appointment. So she will be familiar to many of you, and she will be running the the Department of Labor, which is a great for us in here in Carroll County. So that's why she is not here. She's busy getting her staff in place, and there will be an appointment for her. I serve on the Health and Government Operations Committee. I've been on it for 6 years. You will hear a lot today. If you want to know what our most important issue is, you will hear about the budget, the budget, the budget. And I'm not going to get into that now, but it is a crisis in our state. We have been overspending for a number of years, and at some point it comes home to roost. A lot of that spending has to do with health care, the expansion of Medicaid. So the health issue in our county, and Delegate Reedy and I both serve on that committee, and it used to be Delegate Elliott as well. It really is critical that we get our health care issues taken care of, because that's where our budget is expanding, is in health care and Medicaid expansion. So more to that to come. I look forward to working with you, and to my colleagues here, I don't want you to underestimate how important this chamber is and what Bill Gavin and his team do, as was previously mentioned, on communicating with us and with the committees in writing on policies that are of importance to this chamber. So I hope the chamber really appreciates the efforts that they put in for all these years, because we certainly get a lot out of it.
Thank you, Delegate Krebs. Delegate Reedy.
My name is Delegate Justin Reedy. I'm very proud to represent Legislative District 5, which now includes pretty much all of Carroll County north of Route 26, essentially. So it's a huge area of landmass. I'm looking forward to representing some of the new areas that were not part of District 5A, which I represented for the first 4 years. I serve on the Health and Government Operations Committee with Delegate Krebs. Very excited about the opportunity that we have to really make our state a destination for businesses and a place where businesses and job creators want to stay, not feel like they have to leave. I believe that one of the things, and many of you I've talked with many of you individually and at these kind of meetings before, we really want to, I've always felt like one of the top goals we ought to have is to make Maryland the best place to start a business and to raise a family. And that's a high goal, and there are a lot of different factors that play into that. But I do believe we have an opportunity right now with a new governor who embraces and understands the role of job creators in our economy in the private sector. We have an opportunity to really make progress in making our state a real top place for starting a business and for maintaining a business. I've got some interesting legislative ideas that have been brought to me that I've researched a little bit that I think will help us make progress towards that, and look forward to talking about that maybe some as this unfolds today. And again, thank you for braving the elements and being here, and I look forward to answering any questions that you had. I did also want to say Senator Mike Huff also was going to be here, and he lives in Brunswick as well, and he had a sort of a weather issue this morning and has small children, so I think he called me to express his regrets, but he will come to the next thing he can come to with the chamber, is what he told me. So that's it.
Thank you, Justin. And our new delegate, Haven Shoemaker.
I'm Haven Shoemaker. I think just about everybody in here is somebody that I've met over the years. I started out in municipal government up in Hampstead. Served on the town council there for 6 years, and as mayor for almost 8, and as county commissioner for 4 years. So I think that experience will hold me well as I head into this new position starting next week, as a matter of fact. You know, as far as the committee that I'm going to serve on, I got word a week or so ago that I'm going to be on Ways and Means, and that deals with issues like taxation and gambling and education and a host of other things. So that's where I'll wind up. Now, I don't know where my office is yet. I don't know if it's going to be in a broom closet or what, but when you come to Annapolis, find out. Yeah, look me up. As for my legislative priority, I think it's going to be very, very consistent with yours, and that is to implement Larry Hogan's agenda to get government off people's backs and out of their wallets to the extent possible. Now, I said that to a crowd that skewed left in Pikesville a few weeks ago, and jaws dropped So, but I think I'm in the friendly confines of New Windsor, so I can say that, and I think it's something that you all will appreciate. I think that if Larry Hogan gets to accomplish that which he has pledged to do and that which he seeks to accomplish, it'll make all our lives, the business community and the lives of our tax-paying citizens, a heck of a lot better, and that's my objective. So, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. And last but not least, Delegate Afzali came in, trooped all the way here through the snow and the ice and everything else. So we welcome you here. You can take a couple of minutes to introduce yourself and talk about your plans for the coming session.
Well, thank you, and good morning, everyone. And I apologize. It took me almost 2 hours to get here. So,
wow.
But I will say that there is no place that I would rather be than to introduce myself to the business community here in Carroll County. I am Delegate Kathy Afzali. I am a bit new to Carroll County. Through the redistricting, a small portion of Carroll County will now be in my legislative district. So that includes part of Mount Airy. Part of Mount Airy, and then just north of Mount Airy, so 2 or 3 precincts. So it's a small but mighty group. I've always been very impressed by the Carroll County voters, and when I started introducing myself this past election, quite frankly, the Carroll County side of my district were probably the most educated and astute political junkies that I had the honor of meeting in my campaign. I've just been reelected. I was a delegate for 4 years, representing a huge part of Frederick County. My district, which includes also, you should know there will be 3 delegates representing that part of the district. One of them is Delegate David Vogt, delegate-elect, myself, and we will be getting a new delegate. One of the delegates, Delegate Kelly Schultz, has been pulled into the Hogan team. So our Central Committee is hard at work picking a new delegate, so this is fun and adventurous for all of us. And Senator-elect Mike Huff will be the senator that's representing that part. So you're going to have a lot of delegates and senators who have your best interest at heart. Haven Shoemaker is actually going to be my friend and colleague on the Ways and Means Committee. We do handle some business legislation. We handle taxes, all things taxes and gambling. Also election law. So if you have any interest in voter fraud, that's something that I'm particularly interested in. And also education, which I think is hugely important to the future of our state. And certainly we focus in on those issues. And it's going to be a huge change with a new governor, with a new agenda. And it will be some of our job to promote his agenda and to defend his agenda and to get his agenda through the state legislature. So that's going to be hugely important to all of us. I am a mom. My children are probably still sleeping. They're teenagers, so if I don't actually pull them by their feet out of the bed, they could be there till 2 or 3 this afternoon. But I just want to say it is truly an honor to be here, and I am available to each and every one of you, whether you're in my district or not, or at least I will put you to your proper delegate. But you have a tremendous group here, a group of very strong, very dynamic leaders in Annapolis, and you'll be tremendously and greatly represented there. So I'm going to be honored to serve with each and every one of them, and honored to serve you as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Delegate Afzali. Now I'd like to open the floor for questions, and I'd like to remind the people at the head table they do not all have to answer every question. In the interest of time, if we get an answer that's sufficient, we can skip to the next one. So, questions?
She's got the microphone for anyone that has a question.
Okay, we have a microphone back here. Oh, got 2 microphones.
Hey.
You want to ask a question, raise your hand, and a microphone will come to you.
This could be over really quick.
Yeah.
My goodness. Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. My name is Gary Milliken, and many of you know me. I've been 40 years in senior housing, retirement living in Pennsylvania and in Maryland. The of change is exciting, and there is opportunity, and I would maybe challenge the delegation or maybe just to ask for some response. The demographics of our state is changing. The 85-year-olds are becoming an increasing larger percent of our population. And as much as we're dealing with budget constraints, we're also dealing with a state that has not necessarily been friendly to senior population, and there's an out-migration of many seniors to save retirement income to Virginia, to Pennsylvania, and to other areas. And I want to raise that issue up and see if there's any response from the delegation, as well as our regulatory oversight, which sometimes makes delivery of services very difficult and costly. We as a state have an opportunity to look at the demographics that are coming and to do something about planning for our future for seniors. And so I put that out as a challenge and ask for any response.
Who would like to address that question?
I will.
You will. Kathy Afzali? All right, go ahead.
Well, gee, I don't mean to monopolize, especially I haven't had my breakfast, so I'll try to be coherent. Largely what you're speaking of, I believe, has to do with retirement income and the tax structure in the state of Maryland. That issue has come before the Ways and Means Committee several times in the last 4 years that I was honored to serve. And I'll share with you, I'm hoping that there will be movement in the Hogan administration to reduce the taxes or eliminate the taxes on retirement income. Our senior citizens are our best citizens. Not only do they have more money, but they also do not have children to educate. And a huge part of our budget, countywide and statewide, is our education budget. So those are the citizens that we want to keep and that we want to maintain here in the state of Maryland. So I am hoping that there will be a movement. I think that even there might be some delegates here that presented bills for retirement income tax reduction. So I'll let them address that. But I think you'll find in this group we would be hugely supportive of some kind of tax decrease for our senior citizens.
Let me follow up. That's been my legislation for the last 10 years is we have to be patient. We've got the estate tax passed last year. We've done the Transportation Trust Fund bill, and it takes a lot of time to get this stuff done. There are a number of issues we need to do to keep our retirees here. But one of the most important things, I think, on taxes you're going to find with the Hogan administration is that we need to have tax equity and fairness. And right now in our tax law, Maryland has one of the worst tax structures in the country because we pick winners and losers. And if you happen to be one of the special groups that gets a tax break, you're a winner. And if you happen to be the general public, you're a loser. So we're trying to even that out. But specifically regarding retirement income, some states have no taxes on retirement income. In Maryland, we have a subtraction modification for Social Security. So you can get your Social Security and you don't pay any taxes on it. If you make less than the maximum of Social Security, which is about $27,000, which most people make about $17,000, people that have pensions or retirement income from a qualified plan from your business, you can deduct up to that $27,000 if you have a pension plan or a qualified retirement. Don and I were just talking about this yesterday. But for you small business people and people that don't have the ability to be in a retirement plan because your business doesn't offer it, you cannot deduct. You don't get that same benefit. So what we're trying to do, what I've had in for years, and everyone agrees with it, but it always has a budget impact because less people will be paying money on this. We think everyone should have the same deduction no matter what type of business you're in. If you're a sole proprietor or you're a small business or you have a 401k, an IRA, or you should be able to take the same deduction as people with a pension. So calling it horizontal equity in our retirement is our first step before we start offering. People want veterans to not have to pay on military income and police officers. Well, they already get to deduct it because they have a pension to a certain extent. We need everybody first to have a level playing field, and then we'll start talking about raising that bar and excluding the rest of people's retirement. But those groups all have lobbyists, and sometimes your small business folks don't. So that's what we're going to push for first. And keep in mind, when you start excluding money from taxes, that brings your revenues down, and we already have a budget problem. So it's going to be a tough. I'm putting the legislation in again. It's already been drawn up. But that's one issue, is keeping our seniors here, is to make sure their retirement income is not, it's very highly taxed right now currently in Maryland.
Bill, I know you said you didn't want us all to answer the question. I was just going to maybe mention in response, you're right about the changing demographics. Baltimore County has the largest senior population per capita in the country. So that's an example of what we're dealing with. And one of the big issues with tax, both tax equity and with retirement pay, it may not be possible to exempt all retirement pay. It would have to be phased in over time. However, I do believe, and we know this to be generally true, I mean, if you keep someone here who has disposable income, who contributes to the community like our seniors do, over a period of a couple of years, you're going to realize a lot more tax revenue from the sales tax. There'll be, obviously, that's a hit the first couple of years. That's always the challenge, and I think Delegate Krebs alluded to that. It's always the challenge is getting over that hurdle. And I've put in bills to reduce the corporate income tax rate, and it's always the challenge is they look at that first number and say, we're going to lose X amount of dollars. Well, the whole goal is to see economic growth when you're talking about the corporate tax. With seniors, and I think particularly I think it's wrong that our military retirement pay is not exempt from taxation. I think that's the first thing we ought to do if we exempt anything, in my opinion, because that would help a lot of our seniors as well. So I believe that this has got to be a big priority, is figuring out a way, and a step like Delegate Krebs is talking about is very good to at least get started on more equity for everybody. But I think over time we need to try to get retirement pay, at least more of it exempted from taxation, if not fully exempt. So.
All right, thank you. Senator Bates.
All right, I just would like to take a slightly different tack. Susan was absolutely correct about the retirement income and that type of thing. As a CPA, I deal with that a lot. Howard County a few years ago, I guess maybe it's 8 years ago or more, started doing what they called working on a program for aging in place for our seniors, which I think is a really important thing. And one of the things that we worked on at that time was to give seniors some reduction in the property tax. That's what much of which goes to the schools. And a lot of seniors, because they're on fixed income, the property taxes going up makes it very, very difficult for them. So I worked with the county to develop a program to give a reduction in property tax for the seniors because they don't have children in schools. Another thing that we have the statewide, I call it the circuit breaker tax credit. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a property tax credit for low income and seniors. And for the longest time, clients of mine were coming and saying, we don't get any credit. So I started working with SDAT years ago and found out the reason was that although they were income eligible, their property values had gone up to the point that they no longer qualified for the credit. So we phased in a change to that property tax through working with SDAT. And so that circuit breaker credit begins to give seniors and low-income folks a little better break on their property taxes. I think maybe it might be time to review that again, but that was something that certainly did put more people back on the rolls for those credits. So I think there's a lot of ways we can try to help seniors age in place. Government has a habit of coming up with programs for seniors, and a lot of seniors don't necessarily want the programs. They want to stay in a home that's comfortable to them, and if we can help make that a little more desirable, I think that's a good thing.
Thank you. Delegate Miller.
And I agree with everything I've heard here. The other side of the coin, though, is spending. It's very hard to cut taxes without also looking at the way the state spends its money. The last 8 years, we watched the budget go up dramatically, what the state spends. Governor Hogan has some tough choices. One of the big things are mandates. The things that tie his hands and say you have to spend so much money on each program. And I'm hoping that we in this legislative session get to review some of those mandates and get to roll some of that spending back. And as we roll the spending back, there won't be an argument where you can't cut that tax because we need the money.
That's true.
So it's sort of a two-edged sword. We've got to cut spending before we can cut the taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Question, anyone? Mike?
Along those lines, question of transportation. There are some significant transit projects that are proposed, the Red Line in Baltimore and the Purple Line in the Washington suburbs. And those jurisdictions are obviously lobbying the governor hard as economic development engines. So he's struggling with that. You mentioned the Transportation Trust Fund. That's been developed. The gas tax was raised. So this whole issue of roads versus mass transit is fluctuated back and forth. How do you see that going forward in this session?
Delegate Miller.
Well, anybody that drove on Carroll, Frederick, or Howard County roads this morning saw that the state has given the counties depleted amounts of road maintenance funds. That impacts things like salt and snow removal. They did a poll last year, only 6% of Maryland residents leverage mass transit, 6%. And yet almost 60% of the Transportation Trust Fund is spent on mass transit. I'm not sure how many people in Carroll County utilize mass transit, but actually, can anybody in the room that uses it, can you show me your hands? Wow. Okay, so that 6% is maybe a little high. So the point being is, it's nice to want these massive mass transit construction projects, but when you buy your gas, you expect that money to go in roads. And we have tremendous needs on our roads. The area I represent, that Delegate Krebs used to represent, Delegate Bates and I represent, very dangerous stretch of Route 32 from 26 all the way down to 108. The capacity way outpaces what the road can handle. We've had people die on that road. It's inexcusable. And so first and foremost, the transportation money needs to go into our roads, and we need to prioritize that.
And let me mention the 6%, I heard it was 4%, and that's of anyone that even takes one trip on mass transit in a week. Or, I mean, it's anyone that uses it at all. Most of those transit users still use our roads. If you drive in Baltimore City, they're the big drivers of the Red Line. They want the Red Line in Baltimore City. If you drive in Baltimore City, the roads conditions are horrible. They're failing infrastructure, their pipelines are failing. My daughter lives there, and I cannot believe people can drive their cars. Roland Park, I mean, they need huge influxes of road construction money. I believe if you really ask the voters, even in the jurisdiction, especially Baltimore City, if they'd rather have their road and their infrastructure fixed or they'd rather have their red line, it's a matter of choice. There's only so much money to go around. And these lines cost billions of dollars. They eat up our entire transportation budget. The purple line is in Montgomery County. I can't speak to that as much. But they keep saying that it's going to drive jobs into Baltimore City. I believe many people drive into Baltimore City, and until their roads get fixed, you can't get there. The roads are so bad. So I wish they'd take it back to the people. It is a lobbying group that pushes for these big transit lines, and the jurisdictions is a sexy project. It's not sexy fixing your sewer line in New Windsor. It's not sexy fixing sewer lines in Baltimore City and roads over top. But these big transit projects are. But we need to get back to the people and say, would you rather your roads be fixed and use your gas money for that, or would you rather have these systems? And I truly believe even the people in Baltimore City would prefer to have the roads fixed. I know in Carroll County, I mean, it's a no-brainer, and most of the counties, but these two jurisdictions are driving that. And I do believe that Larry Hogan will look at the value that we're going to get out of spending all of our transportation money on these two lines, and I think they will be reevaluated. Let's hope.
Thank you, Delegate Afzali.
Oh, well, I guess I'm at like an auction. I scratched my eyebrow, and he thought I was calling, but that's okay. Actually, I always have something to say about something, so maybe I will pipe in. Just so you know, that District 4, which I represent, borders 3 states. My North County and Frederick County borders Pennsylvania. I border West Virginia as well as Virginia. So when we raised our gas tax, that had a huge impact on Frederick County, because it's very easy for people in my district to drive over the border and buy cheaper gas. So it affects our businesses. So when they raise the gas tax, it disproportionately hurts people such as yourself and your businesses, and it benefits people who do not live in the districts that are being the most impacted by the increase in the gas tax. So we're not noticing the gas tax as significantly because the gas prices obviously have gone down. So we're thinking, wow, gas is cheap, And yeah, it is much less expensive than it was, say, a year ago. But on the same note, it's even less expensive in the border states surrounding us. And that disproportionately hurts Frederick County and some of Carroll County as well. So I will say that although I certainly believe in all the road construction, I adamantly opposed the purple line because it disproportionately affected and hurt the people that I represent. So I agree with my colleagues.
Thank you. Delegate Shoemaker, you wanted to say something?
The red line and the purple line are two of the biggest boondoggles going. I think I would characterize it that way. The fact of the matter is, transportation money is supposed to be in a lockbox, and I think we voted on that at referendum this past year. But that doesn't mean that we need to squander those resources on mass transit when so few people utilize it. I mean, we have a heck of a lot of transportation projects that are very much needed here in this county and other counties across the state for people that drive on our roads, and that's where we should be investing our resources. The other thing that concerns me, though, is with regard to the gas tax. By the way, I came back from North Carolina the other day, and I got gas in Virginia for $1.97. So that's a significant difference from here at home. I don't like the cowardly way that this gas tax these gas tax increases are being implemented, where they're gauged to inflation or whatever and kick in automatically. I understand that there's a proposal in the Senate to roll that back and require the legislature to demonstrate some cojones and vote to increase gas tax every time it goes up, and I would certainly be supportive of such an initiative. So that's all I wanted to say about that.
Thank you. Question, Mr. Barnes.
You got two microphones.
I'm going to be in stereo. I don't think there's many people in this room that do any farming, but I'm a part-time farmer. That's my hobby because my golf scores were so bad. So. But farmers have really been picked on in this state environmentally, and it really bothers me. Some people might think this is funny, but we're not allowed to spread manure on our fields past a certain date, and in this state, whether the ground is frozen or not, and that's a big deal when you're spreading manure. You don't want the frozen ground so that it lays on top. You want it absorbed into the soil. But I go to the Keystone Farm Show in Pennsylvania, and everybody's spreading manure up there. And just remember, the Susquehanna falls into the Chesapeake Bay, and it just makes no sense. There's no coordination whatsoever. And this state really severely picks on the farmers. And we had a young farming couple on the Eastern Shore that practically lost their farm after they were sued by the Water Keepers Environmental Group, which was supported by the University of Maryland legally, by the way. And it turned out they went to court and they won, and they should have won. But we have so many regulations now. Phosphorus now is a big deal, and that is going to be a big deal here with the state. And I think Governor Hogan may be able to do something about that. But it is I mean, they make us fence off pastures when we're not polluting. I mean, if you have a lot of cattle on a pasture, I understand. But I know they want me to fence my pasture, and I tested the water in, and I tested the water as it leaves, okay, and there was hardly any difference at all. And it just makes me angry that a lot of the farmers are really having a tough time with all the environmental aspects that are being placed on them. So I just ask that you look with jaundiced eye for any increases in the environmental area as it affects farmers. And quite frankly, under the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, the information that we were given of the goals for farming and the pollution were way ahead of their goals, and they're still picking on the farming community. Yeah. So if there's anything you all can do in that arena, I'd appreciate it.
All right, Senator Bates, you want to start?
Well, I think Delegate Miller and I are both members of our County Farm Bureau. And those are issues that have been on my radar screen for quite a long time as a member of the Farm Bureau. Governor O'Malley had something he called his Governor's Delivery Unit, and that was brought to my attention during budget times a couple years ago, and I started looking into it. And what it was is the goals that he was trying to accomplish, and he had that state stat and all that, which, you know, anyway, it was a way of making, you know, the
I
stuff
trust.
you can't spread look good. But anyway, but what one of the things that I was looking at, it seemed that, again, it was disproportionately aimed at farmers. And when I started making noise about it, all of a sudden I got the interest of the governor's office, and one of the gentlemen came over to meet with me. And we're going through a lot of these goals they had. And I said, these are really aimed at farmers. Why? And basically the answer was, because there's so few of them, we can do it. And that really kind of breaks my heart, because the farmers are the ones who are asked to preserve the land that everybody wants in open space, but yet you're not allowed to utilize it in a way that it becomes profitable. It just, you're working at counter purposes. So I think we really do need to look at that. I would dare say that because of the economics of farming, farmers put a whole lot less on their fields than most homeowners put on theirs. And we really need to look at what the sources are, rather than disproportionately disadvantaged farmers. I have a number of farm accounts, so I understand what the costs are. But anyway, I hope Mr. Hogan will work on that. We really do need to support the farm community and not destroy them.
Thank you, Senator. Anyone else care to? Justin?
Wayne, I know we've discussed some of the issues with your particular situation. Just so you know, I just got back from visiting my wife's parents who moved to Georgia. They don't tax pensions in Georgia, by the way. And they bought 5 acres, and they're starting to, this land, they've cleared it, and they're going to be planting. And they call them gentleman farmers in Georgia when you are maybe retired, or if it's your second, kind of your part-time hobby, or they call them gentleman farmers. So I thought maybe you might like that, to be called a gentleman farmer.
I get dirty.
That's fine, but he does too. But he got me dirty while we were down there, actually. One of the things, I tend to be kind of I come from, a lot of my work experience was in politics before I was elected, so I tend to be kind of, in my opinion at least, I try to be reality-based about politics, and I understand that sometimes people are going to do things I don't agree with, but I understand where they're coming from. But one of the things probably the things that made me the most angry in the 4 years that I've been a delegate is the way the farm community was treated by the O'Malley administration. It's outrageous. And what they've done is, that attitude that Senator Bates was talking about just permeates. We all want a clean bay, we all want a clean environment, and that should really go without saying, to be honest with you. But, we've got Pennsylvania will not do anything nearly as stringent as we do, and I can't blame them, because they don't want to put their farmers out of business. We really have to look at, and we've at the county level, we've worked a lot with our county commissioner board to identify the fact that we need to look at different things that are causing pollution, not straining a gnat and swallow a camel. But that's, again, made me so upset, and we fought against a lot of those regs. And a lot of them are just nonsensical, or and it just doesn't make any sense, or it's not nearly worth the strain you're putting on our farm community. So one of my biggest priorities, and I'm sure that the folks up here agree with me, is we've talked a lot about business friendliness, but we need to be friendly to our farms. They're major economic producers in our state. And so I know the Hogan administration is committed, absolutely committed to rolling back these regs and to making sure that things make sense. And like we said with your property, I mean, if you're testing the water in and out and it's clean, why are we making you go through all this hassle? I mean, as long as you're not polluting or harming the water quality. So, that's something where I think we as legislators, even as we're still a big minority in the General Assembly as Republicans, but we can really have an impact in really burrowing down into some of these regs and some of this budget language that's designed to really harm our farm community, and we can really try to get that stuff out, or at least mitigated. And we have had some success. We did at least stave off the PMT for a while, and we're hoping now with the new administration with Governor Hogan we can kill that dead. But I just thought I wanted to share that, because I just really, our farmers are really the backbone of our community in Carroll County, but really they're a major part of our entire Maryland community. So I appreciate the question.
One more thing, you talked about regulations. The O'Malley administration gave us a Christmas gift of 70 new regulations that just came out since November. And these regulations, when I say 70 different names of regulations, they might have a dozen, and one is the phosphorus management tool for farmers. That has been put off for several years by the regulatory community. We've been trying to put that off, but it's up again. And if they don't pull these regulations by January the 15th, they automatically take effect. The Hogan administration, we put out all the regulations. We're trying to get them out to people. There's 70 new regulations for every different group. It's not just for farmers. And the Hogan administration is trying to pull all of those regulations back so that they have time to look at them. Right now, his administration, he's got like 10 people appointed. He doesn't have people in place to look at these things. So we're trying to get the people in place. We're trying to get the business community to look at the regulations, the lobbying groups, and make some noise about these things that are automatically going to take effect. I got a list this week of the 70 regulations, just the name of it. I'm trying to drill down and just look at what the regulations say. It's an overwhelming task, and I'm one person, and we're trying to get that information out. So I spoke to my counterparts in the House yesterday in leadership, and we're trying to pull them all back because we can't even possibly get through all these regulations to look at them. So if we can pull them back until the administration has time to look at them in the next couple of months and then look at them realistically. But one of them is the phosphorus management regulation.
The Secretary of Agriculture, Buddy Hance, I don't think he's being reappointed, but he was.
I don't think so either.
Well, he's a Democrat, but Buddy was a farmer, and Buddy has tried to work within the parameters of keeping his job, and as Secretary of Agriculture, and dealing with the O'Malley administration. And in September, O'Malley threatened to replace him because he was holding back on the phosphorus regulations and wasn't pushing things through. So there's been a lot of threats to him too. I mean, he understands a lot of what's going on. I mean, he hasn't been one of my favorite Secretary of Agricultures, but I'll tell you, he has tried to help us at times, and I think he just gave up. But when you're under that kind of pressure all the time, you're not doing your job, because that you're appointed to. You're just acting as a puppet, and O'Malley had him acting as a puppet.
Well, he did us a favor by pushing them off for this long, and now we have a new administration, and we have a new secretary, and Joe Bartenfelder is our new appointment, request for appointment for Secretary of Ag, and I think he'll be good, but he did us a favor by delaying these regulations until a new administration came in, and you're going to see a huge change in these regulations going forward. We just need to stop the 70 that are in play right now from moving forward.
I'm a little bit like Wayne, just a poor dumb old farm boy here, but I have a nutrient management. I have a nutrient management plan that thick, and if you can just take some of these things back to a voluntary type program rather than legislative. Call off the nutrient Nazis, as they're known in Carroll County, and just simply let farmers go back to voluntarily meeting the regulations. And they did a great job until they started regulating it. So it's very simple at that point. Thank you for your help on that.
I did want to say something about the farming. District 4 is the #1 milk producing district in the state, and that's who I represent. So I've been dealing with these farming issues for the last 4 years. It was my bill that ended up passed for the estate tax relief. That was the #1 farming issue of when I first took office. This pollution in the Bay, and the reason I want to reiterate what my colleagues here have said about agriculture. Agriculture is the #1 commercial business in our state. It is an $11 billion industry. So whether we think it affects our own personal businesses or not, it does, because it is the hugest business. So the more burden we put on our agriculture and our producers, the more trouble to our economy, obviously. But the thing I did want to point out, and I know you all probably know this, but there are fewer farms in Maryland than ever in its history, and there is more pollution. There were more farms in the 1800s than there are now in the state of Maryland, and there was less pollution in the 1800s. So there doesn't seem to be any statistical correlation between agriculture and pollution in the Bay. So I think that the new administration understands science a little better than the former administration, and will understand that the farmers are not responsible for this pollution, that it's coming from other sources, like the Susquehanna River.
Thank you, Delegate. We have time for maybe one more question in the back there.
Good morning. Thank you for coming out in this weather. I was a little surprised myself when I hit the roads. My question is, we have a new administration. There are challenges that came from the old administration, so there's a lot that Larry Hogan and everybody has to wade through. What can we realistically expect to see happen this year And we all want, well, not everybody, but most people want the same thing. Lower taxes, better environment, better schools, better roads. What can we actually expect this year? What do you think will be positive from the general
Delegate
consensus?
Miller would like to take a chance on that one.
I think job one, we have a very powerful governor in regards to the budget, and I think the budget's going to drive everything this year. There aren't going to be any other big issues like we've seen in the past. So the people in the budget committees are going to be the ones that have to struggle with what's been overspent. We've already had, I think it's $2 billion in write-downs from last year's budget because the taxes haven't come in the way they projected. So I think it's going to be really important that Governor Hogan produce a much smaller budget that's responsible, and that will drive some of these other things that we need to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Bates.
Thank you. Having been on the Appropriations Committee back when Ehrlich became governor, and then again now, I see the deja vu again. Interesting, we have a Republican governor, and all of a sudden we are focusing, as it should be, on the overspending. And last year's was a typical election year budget where everybody got everything, and then all of a sudden the revenues weren't in. When Ehrlich became governor, we were actually cutting two budgets at the same time. And frankly, the first budget that goes in will be an O'Malley budget. It'll be changed slightly, but it's basically an O'Malley budget. They've been working on that since the fall. So we are going to have to work with the administration to look for areas to cut within what is submitted. Next year, you will see a Hogan budget, but the administration will be working with the budget committees to try to pare the O'Malley budget down. But it's a real challenge to be more than halfway through a year making significant cuts. $400 million in cuts is significant with less than half a year to go, and then deal with the cuts that are needed for next year. Let me just give you another look into the future. Over the last 8 years, the state has been using debt to balance the operating budget. This has been an increase year after year to the point where we have a supplement in the general fund to help pay the debt service that is needed to retire our debt. What we've got going right now is that supplement is growing. It'll be, I think in the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to be about $600 million. That is a significant jump just to keep the property taxes somewhat stable. And just a little, again, deja vu again. We had that under the Ehrlich administration. They've always had that to keep the property tax stable. And what the Democrats in the legislature did with a short time to go before a re-election, they cut that subsidy, okay? It was an appropriation. They cut it out of the budget, which then leaves the governor no choice but to raise the property tax to pay the debt. So I'm just giving you that. Just watch for it. If you see it happen, then they'll turn around and run on him or run against him for raising the property tax. But you have no choice but to pay your debt. And the debt is increasing so greatly that it's really constraining what we're going to be able to do. So just watch that. It isn't just the operating budget. It is the whole capital budget as well. And the way they've used the debt to balance the operating budget is, it's like using your credit card to pay your mortgage. It's really not a good thing. So we've got some serious problems coming forward.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I think the hour is near where we should be dismissed. So you can all go back to your work, and I can go back to my retirement. And I would ask the delegates and Senator Bates to stay here 3 minutes to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, again, for braving the elements to get here. And we always like to kind of leave you wanting more. We could have kept going with question and answers for another hour. That's part of the appeal to this. That makes you want to reach out to them. They're all open to getting phone calls. Call them, get to know them, invite them over to where you work, maybe take them out to lunch, and get to know them a little bit more. Not to lunch today, though. Thanks again to the sponsors today, BGE and Comcast. We really appreciate that. Hopefully we'll see you guys back here same time, same place next year with better weather. The staff of Ziegler, nice job. Give them a round of applause. Yeah. Nice job. They had to get here really early. Just to remind you, next week, 1 week from today, in fact, we have our ever-entertaining county commissioners. We've got a whole new board, and we never know what to expect. They'll all speak to us at the Arts Center, and it ought to be a lot of fun. And we're going to meet there. I believe it starts around 7:30, so please come early. It's free. Call the office, or actually just sign up. If you haven't registered yet, please sign the sheet in front of you. And there's some other events we have coming up. They're either in the program or on that little card on your table. So that being said, I think you can stay and kind of hang around here and talk for a little bit. I really appreciate you all coming again, and have a wonderful day. Thanks.
I'm sorry I'm late, really.
Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see.
So that's the way.
That's what I'm hearing is they're waiting for God to.
That's happened before.